Hello everyone, welcome to a new video on the channel. Today we are wrapping up the month of April in my reading journals, and I'm so glad that you're spending some time with me today. If you haven't already, get yourself a drink or something to snack on, and let's get straight into this video. As you can see, I am already lining up the boxes for the stats page, and this month is a very interesting month. I wouldn't say I had a bad month per se, because a lot of the books that I read were quite enjoyable, but it was certainly a different kind of month for me. If you're new here or haven't watched my recent videos lately, I have been having a really difficult time finding time to read. So normally I average about 15 books a month, give or take, and this month I only read 12, and I wouldn't have read even that many if I hadn't relied on audiobooks. I'm so glad that we now live in an era where technology can make reading more accessible to us all. I was definitely one of those people in the beginning, especially when I returned to reading, that didn't understand why people would listen to audiobooks. I would say I was a little bit of a snob and a bit I wouldn't say opinionated, but I didn't have the knowledge that I do now to understand why they're so superior. And so this month was really handy, because if I hadn't have had audiobooks, I definitely would have not read as many, being so busy as I am. My life is very hectic at the moment, so thankfully places like Libby, where I can rent from my library, exist. And I also tried out a subscription service this month. Unfortunately, I have not accepted to continue on with the trial after the trial period, as I only read one book there and I couldn't find any books there that I wanted to read thereafter. So I've cancelled it for now, but perhaps in the future I'd go back, because it is a really good service. I think it's called Scribd or Scribed. I can't really figure out which one it is, considering the E is missing. But it was really good. I got to read my favourite book there, and it was my first time actually reading a physical book alongside listening to an audiobook, and so mixed reading, and I found that really, really fun. So for the month of April, my favourite read was The Adventures of 𝓬𝓬𝓮𝓼 by Shannon Chakraborty. It was a book club read. Everyone enjoyed it. It was so fantastic, and I'm still having a bit of a book hangover from it. And that was what I listened to as an audiobook and read at the same time. Game changer, absolutely love it. I'm going to do it again with some more fantasy books, because I tend to just listen to romance as an audiobook because I can kind of zone out. I kind of know the formula that's going to happen, and so that's really handy. So I was able to utilize the audiobooks that I read or listened to over the month of April by putting them on when I was really busy, and they were so good, and I'm definitely going to continue on with that as much as I can for the rest of the year, especially in my busier periods, because they definitely kept me sane in those moments when I felt like I really wanted to read but I couldn't find the time in my schedule. And I definitely am no longer a snob about thinking only ebooks and physical books are the way for me. Anyway, as you can see, I'm already halfway finished with filling in the stats of the month, so let's quickly run through them. I had a total of 12 books read. I read 4,444 pages, which is so aesthetically good looking on the page. I'm so glad that that number came together like that. The average was 3.9, so it is 0.1 ahead of last month. So even though I read less, I enjoyed books more this month. I had 2 ARCs. I brought only 1 book, which is a miracle. I hired 5 from the library, which is ironically the number of how many audiobooks I read this month. And there was 9 series, 2 standalones, 2 books that I DNF'd. The formats were 2 physical books, 4 ebooks, 5 audiobooks, and 1 mixed. The types that I read were all 12 were novels. And the audience was 9 adult books, 0 new adult, 0 middle grade, but there were 3 YA. As you can see, we're now quickly over here. I read 3 fantasy books and 9 romances for the genres, and then for star ratings I had 2 2.5 stars, 1 3 and 3.5 star respectively. There were 3, 4 and 4.5 star books, and there were 2 5-star books. We're now at the final part of this page, and that is putting in the most and least favourite reads of the month. As I already mentioned, Amina is my favourite book of the month. Highly recommend it, and I will continue to recommend it for as long as I can breathe. And then the least favourite book was 𝓤𝓚𝓮𝓮 Makes Her Match by Sally Thorne. I went on about it a bit in one of my reading updates, so you can hear all about why I didn't enjoy that book if you check that video out. So we're now done with this part of the stats, and I just realised that there is a cord in the view, and I'm so sorry about that. The new setup isn't in this video, but it is ready to go now. I'm very thrilled. Everything is here now, and I'm so excited to try and film with it, hopefully later tonight. But that cord was in the way because that is the light cord, and it's bothering me now. So if it's bothering you guys, I'm so sorry. We are now on to the day's read pixel, and if you're new here, this is my favourite page to fill in this video portion of each month. I just think it really pops a lot off the page now that it's on the black paper, and I just love the colour scheme together. This month was a very different one for the trends that you'll see that are forming in the pixels. I had the most days of not reading this month for the year so far. I think it is 4, they're the white squares, and then I had 2 days where I read 3 or more books, and the majority of the days are just 1 book a day. I just really didn't have enough time, but the ones that had 2 books on those days were generally ones that I was also listening to audiobooks on, and there are 12 of them. So you can still see some of the trends are continuing. For example, on the 7th and on the 16th, I have read 2 books every single day over those days on the months, and again on the 24th, I believe, I've read 1 book every day on that day of the month. So it's fun to see those trends come together. We're now finally putting on some extra covers on the Read the Rainbow. I haven't updated this since January, and I'm so glad I was able to put 3 more on. I try to use just plain backgrounds for these books to colour in each section, but with Sing Me to Sleep, I love the cover so much, and they're all tones of blue, so I wanted to use that one for this page, and I'm so glad we've only got 3 more to go. What I think will be the hardest one to fill in out of those 3 is the white, though now that I'm saying that, I can actually think of a book that I want to read this year that is a white cover, so maybe we won't have so much trouble. We're now looking at the reading data journal. This is where I keep all the other stats, the more boring stats, I suppose. This is just where I store everything for the entire year. I will have in the description the links for the setup to both these journals if you're new here, and you can see how those pages were set up and how I'm going to utilize them. I went into great detail about how I would use each page in these journals, so if that interests you, you can check them out. But I'm just adding a book to the ARCs page and then the series tracker. So a couple of things in this part. One, I laughed a lot when I was watching this back in the editing phase of this video, because you can't see it yet, but my sister was actually in the room with me while I was filming this, and we were chatting away, and she was talking about what I was doing on the pages, and you'll see her little hand pop up, and it gave me such a fright because at first I didn't realize why there was an extra hand on the screen, and then I remembered that she was in there with me, and so I had a little bit of a chuckle about that. She was confused as to why I filled in a couple of books on the series tracker with the first 2 books not coloured in. She thought that I was purposely missing them. There's that hand. And the answer to that is I actually have read those books out of order. So for the next 2 I think I put down for series, I read book 2 first because that was how our book club reading went. And then the next one, I can't find the first 2 books at the library. The 3rd one was available and I listened to it as an audiobook, and so I now have to somehow find book 1 and 2 without paying an astronomical amount for them, because I want to finish this series. It was really good, at least book 3 was. So having to fill in those gaps out of order is something that I will do, hopefully. Otherwise, we'll have to end those series where they are. And I made a mistake here. I don't know if it's going to be a duology or not. So if it's 3 books and becomes a trilogy, then I will add the 3 when I know. But for now, I think it might only be 2, and I can just wipe that out. We're on owned TBR page now, and I've just got a couple of books to colour in as red on here. And I think that is almost the end. We only have to go to the 𝓤𝓼𝓮𝓮 author collection and colour in If Only You. I think now we're at the end. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I'm very excited to be into a new month and hopefully doing better than I did over April with my prompts. At least I did not do very well at all with that, but I did have a good reading month, and I hope that you are all doing well. I'll see you soon. Bye.